Women are above all else humans, um, which is stating the obvious, but that's kind of the best starting point because it seems like things between men and women are often framed as entities from two totally different places with two totally different interests, which, on one hand, I kind of understand, but on the other, it's not true because men and women want the same thing. We do, and above all, women are fellow humans. Women are the life givers, the homemakers. And by homemaker, I don't mean necessarily somebody who puts up the curtains and cleans and everything like that. I mean, for men, for the most part, um, home is where she is and the family. Because your home could be obliterated, you know, and you can pack up and move these people and make a new one. And women have something that they, I think at least, should not give away so easily. Um, Women are the source ultimately, and it really is less complicated than it seems. I feel like once we get into the back and forth between men and women and talking about men and women, it can kind of fray out into these extremely complicated and, you know, these extremely fine details that I don't think are quite as important. And especially this day and age because obviously women are more educated than ever, freer, I guess you could say, than ever to go about life as they please. And in that environment, dating, romance, what a woman gets up to on a day-to-day basis, it's going to change. It's going to change that list of motivations and wants. But at the end of the day, it's almost like ladies walked into the room and they're kind of exploring the terrain, you know, getting out there, checking out every part of the room, seeing what's going on, and um, finding out exactly what they want. But it's like I said, men and women want the same thing. You know, it's almost like getting just a whole bunch of new things, only to ultimately come back and be like, yeah, we want the same thing. You know, because the way we tend to frame male-female relations across time into history is one of like straight domination from men onto women for all of time, which no doubt has been the case, but um, not, at least in my opinion, as a overwhelming majority. I mean, most of what we take on and come to understand as the truth is conveyed to us through movies and shows. You know, as surface level as that sounds, we weren't there. You know, and from my point of view, all you have to do is ask yourself, what do you want? Because if you can ask yourself that and come up with it with an answer, it's very likely that people through history did the same thing. And from the male point of view, the whole time we were doing it for women in one form or another, no matter how crazy it got out there. Like, we were doing it for women. And yes, we have things that are, you know, for us, but that's not complete in and of itself. And the same for women. Women obviously have things that are for them, but that's not full circle. And like I said, women have something that is extremely valuable that, in my opinion, um, y'all should probably hold on to that for as long as you can. And I'm not necessarily talking about intimacy, although that is um, extremely important to hold on to, because I think as time goes, you'll find out that there are certain things that you shouldn't just give to just anybody, you know, because you do lose something. You do leave something behind and you take on something. And from an emotional point of view, at least from what I have seen, it seems like women, I mean, we all experience emotions, but from my point of view, emotions feel more like a ping, in the chest, just a pulse. And it seems like ladies' emotions are more like tunnels or corridors that are characterized by maybe different colors, different levels of intensity, and they can take you on a bit more of a trip than they do for men. I think it's not that it's stronger; it's that for men, emotions are more like periodic pulses that don't go on and build in intensity. Maybe for some men in some situations, but on the whole, it doesn't seem to be the case. And for women, it seems to be the other way, where it can build in intensity. And I've noticed something throughout my life so far. There are men who will help build that tunnel and make it stronger and stronger and almost sort of feed into it. And there are men who will help them out of it, help women out of that, especially when it seems like, um, you know, things are going to be okay in general, and maybe this tunnel isn't a place where that you should be. And it's true that women are the fairer sex. And I've spent a lot of time with women. I've had a lot of female friends over my life. And it is true that men and women want the same exact thing. And this day and age, we have access to so many people all the time. From the female point of view, it's not so easy to tell why so and so is here. And it seems like a good amount of effort is put towards finding out why so and so is here. And from the female point of view, it's probably not the easiest thing in the world to discern the motives of people, which is something that you have to get right. Because, like I said, you will have things taken from you. And the same is true from the male point of view, because when it comes to human beings, from the male and female point of view, there is nothing more full circle and finishing and completing, satisfying, fulfilling, as there is as proper male-female relationships. When you have that going for you, when you have that going right, you're on a different cloud on a day-to-day basis. There is something that is supremely fulfilled. If you can have that in your life and I guess sort of taken care of, you are so much more free to pursue other things with this sense of confidence that you cannot get any other way. And I know we like to frame it as though men and women can sort of splinter off and do their own things and not need each other, but that is completely false. That is absolutely not the case at all. That's more like something we tell ourselves amidst a string of maybe failures or a string of bad experiences, and we say, I don't want anything to do with them. I'm going to do my own thing, And I can actually become just as happy and complete and fulfilled by myself, which is completely untrue. Um, we could try to persist in that, but in time, this will be shown. And yeah, I've seen it over and over and over again. And there is something that when I say men need women, women are our other half, like, it's true. We need you, and you're my other half. You're all of our other half. And when a man actually loves a woman, genuinely loves a woman, and cares, we will do things that uh, we would otherwise never do for anybody else. That there is nothing more compelling than your love for a woman from the male point of view. That there is nothing uh, more gripping than that. And as an extension, the children that come from that and the unit, the group, the family, there's nothing that will compel us more than that. Like, we will quite literally do anything for that. And there is nothing on earth, there is nothing in a human life more compelling than that. Ever. And all other pursuits underneath that, without that, are inferior pursuits. And you can have a lot of joy out of that. You can get a lot of happiness out of that. But at the end of the day, you will find yourself again at rest, thinking that there is something else, and you will continue to move yourself into that something else in various forms, and it will never quite get there. There is nothing like that. So you imagine your life from the point of view, like, this is what I mean when I say men and women want the same thing. We, at the end of the day, within our core of cores, want a situation where we have met somebody from the male-female point of view who is sort of, I guess you could say, the ultimate, who we actually genuinely love, and we enjoy their company. We are almost sort of pulled to them in a way we are not pulled toward anybody else. We want that almost as a part of our lives and sort of taken care of, I guess. And I know it's easy to say I don't want that, but yes, you do. If you're not saying that now, you will at some point be saying that, and you may come to resent a world that does not provide that. You may come to resent a world that actually does the opposite and hurts you and confuses you and brings you in all kinds of different directions except that one. Especially if you've been through some shit. Especially if the opposite gender has kind of fucked you over a little bit. That is going to make it even more difficult, obviously, but that doesn't negate the fact. I mean, men and women are the exhale and inhale of this whole universe. It's the on and the off, positive, negative, without ascribing any of those two things to either gender. It's just we are a coin. So to try to come up with some situation that extracts yourself is not possible. This is the scheme. This is the game. This is the circumstance that we are in. And how does one come to trust somebody to that degree? How does one let go and lose control to that degree? Especially when maybe you've been trying to set up a situation in life where you had as much control as possible. and you involved yourself with people in a way that was as managed and done to your liking as possible. What happens when you suddenly stumble across somebody and you slowly start to lose control, where this feeling is coming around that is bigger and more powerful than your efforts to control it? Well, that'll get you thinking, especially if you insist on the idea that this isn't possible, that there must be something else going on. There must be some other play here. This person must be really good at making me feel. Perhaps it's some sort of long-term manipulation, and eventually this is all going to come and bite me in the ass. And that's happened. That's honestly what sucks. Like I said about the situation women are in, as well as men, where you don't really know the intent, but there is one way you can tell, and that's by finding out whether or not this person is willing to suffer for you. I mean, really, that's one of the truest ways to tell. Will this person go through things with you? Will they penetrate deeper and deeper into the layers of you and with the complications of life as they go? Will they suffer for you? And I don't mean by that, some sort of agonizing torture that you, put this person through just to test whether or not they'll suffer for you. Life is going to do that all by itself. When two people come together by virtue of two separate human beings coming together, there's going to be layers of friction, resistance, and suffering. That's just a part of two people coming together. And a lot of the times, as soon as that starts to come around, people just say, fuck this, and get out of there. And maybe they'll get 2, 3, 4 layers deep, and then get out of there. And then there are those who will keep going, that are compelled and want to know everything about you, who want all of your time, but have to accept and understand that they can't have all of your time. There are those who will be genuinely so gripped by you, and you might say, well, why me? There's so many people on Earth. We have access to so many people. Well, why me specifically? Is this person so compelled to the exclusion of all others? Which is a good question. And to that I would say, that's how it happens. That's how it works. And sometimes everything a person says and everything a person does only pulls you further into them, even if it's objectively things that you might consider unattractive or whatever, or negative traits or horror stories, or whatever your particular circumstance in life is. Men and women, especially men and women who are like hand in glove to each other, will be compelled into each other no matter what they do, no matter what they say, no matter what happens. They will not forget about each other, and like some sort of universal force will slowly collapse into each other and become one thing. And that's just the way it is. And especially this day and age, it's completely natural to resist that, because there's always going to be part of you that's like, I don't want this to cause me some kind of pain. I don't want this person to set up this situation where this thing seems real because it's what both of you want, and then, pull the rug out from under you. And here's the thing, women are the beauty of this universe. They are the beautiful entities of this universe. It's like I've said before, the most beautiful thing I've ever seen is a woman. And men, when we're handsome, there's more of an edge there. you know, a bit more of a sharpness. But women are the soft skin to our incredibly rough hands. And this day and age, it's even also something where women and their kindness can be mistaken for flirting. There are all kinds of things like that y'all have to deal with that complicates what you do. And, it's totally understandable how it can be near impossible to navigate. I mean, there's a lot of things that I could say for men that sort of keep us or make it easier for us to sort of forget what we are and sort of get bound up and lost in our image of ourselves. But for women, it seems like there are more things that keep you, I guess, grounded. And at the same time, it's possible to be on the internet and just have millions of people following you and buying into you in large part because you are beautiful. And, you know, that's something that as a generation we're sort of figuring out. I mean, it's always been that there has been beauty that has uh, gone from village to village, from country to country, where everybody heard about it, you know, even hundreds of years ago. Um, but today, there's quite a bit of beauty. There's a lot of um, beautiful women, and I would say that there always has been. But we're just now sort of navigating how all this stuff works with the internet, especially, you know. And it's like I said, for me, it's singular. The most beautiful thing I've ever seen is one woman, and at the end of the day, we're both looking for that which has a tendency to bring something akin to magic. And at the same time, uh, we're all very, very human. It's quite the duo, you know. It's quite the pair of things. You got sort of a magic quality on one hand and the extremes of being human on the other. And the thing that you have, I think, in my opinion, you're probably better off keeping for as long as possible. And I mean that just across the board. Like, you shouldn't just let anybody know you, you know, because more people have access to more people than ever before, and there's things like the proliferation of murder documentaries and stuff, um, which is kind of a double-edged sword because it makes the world look extremely dangerous at all times. And at the same time, it sort of prepares you and gives you maybe things to look for. But I would say that just the vast amount of information available to us, the immortalizing of so many different types of stories, uh, can maybe add barriers around us that can make it a little bit more difficult to trust, which, as I said, is completely understandable. So how do you find yourself in a situation where somebody is extremely easy to trust? Because it's going to be difficult to get it out of mind that you're also giving away power. And it's like I said, that's why it's so singular, you know. That's why it's so singular because it's going to happen like that once, and when it does, um, it's going to be able to endure a degree of suffering, pain, that would normally make other people uncomfortable and leave. And as women, you are susceptible to the masculine spell, let's say. You, in an ideal world, even, I mean, this is, you know, what you want is a man who basically makes your body betray you. A man who, in all probability, is favored by a lot of women, but he wants you. And I know that you want that. You want a man who is, on the one hand, desperate for you, and on the other, somehow his own thing. Because it can be both those things at the same time. It's not dissimilar how it is with men and women. When we see a woman, it will make our thoughts and bodies betray us. You know, even laughter is that, because laughter isn't, it's not voluntary. But what if it's true that testosterone is actually down? What if it is actually down 50%? I mean, that's a lot. And would it not explain some things? The gender identity issues. Would it not explain the excess of high, I guess you could say, squealy, lispy voices? Would it not explain the difficulty women have in bumping into somebody that they find extremely attractive? Fairly often. It seems like, from what I gather, it's very, very uncommon. And when it does happen, a lot of the time those men are just extremely sought after. So it just kind of makes you feel alone, I would say. And honestly, those factors and more are they're not the best. Honestly, they're not the best. And for you dudes, testosterone. I mean, that's not the only thing, but it certainly is a thing. Uh, there's a lot of things that cut off that flow. You know, men need to do men shit. No matter how evolved we are, no matter how intelligent we are, no matter how much uh, we grow in terms of sophistication, we still need to do men shit. We're still brutes on one hand, animals on one hand, and civilized on the other. You still need to be putting your body through rigorous activity. You need to be hurting yourself. You need to be in danger sometimes. You need adrenaline. You need that feeling of your body just fucking pulsing with strength. You can't do without that, at least not for long. I mean, you can putz around probably pretty well and get some things done, but without that, you're just gonna be, you're not gonna get the full male experience, and women aren't gonna be too happy with you. Uh, and from what I've seen, most women are complete sweethearts. Most women, even if they have pain in their face, are complete sweethearts. And you do get back what you give. I'm willing to trust people, but I still don't let them that close. I trust people just enough to let them close enough for me to find out how they are, and maybe increase or decrease, or, you know, continue on or not. And that's easy for me, but it's kind of different for women, because like I said, even just common courtesy can be mistaken for flirting or interest. And then for women too, it's like, the last thing you probably want is somebody being completely obsessed with you who, you know, is repellent to you, you know. And it's while we are similar most of the time and we want the same things, it's like a lot of the time, um, things are completely different. And it's like when we think about it, ultimately, when we actually think about it, we all know what we want from each other. And human beings are this interesting situation where love is a real need, you know. And I know there's been plenty of footage, movies, and all kinds of things of people doing fantastic by themselves. But loneliness is going to get you. You know what I mean? It's going to creep into your thoughts, and it's going to creep into everything you do and become unhelpful. And women need a man at the end of the day, some actual good man who honestly is mature too. Because this day and age, man, it's like there's an extreme also proliferation of adolescence, of staying relatively psychologically adolescent. And that is everywhere. And I get how that's desirable too, but you have to have any adolescence you maintain, you still have to also cultivate maturity. And you still have to be able to take things seriously. You have to be able, how are you going to convince anybody of anything if you're perpetually adolescent? When you're an adolescent adult, the world is still imposing itself on you versus the other way around. How are you supposed to sell anybody on anything if you're a grown child? How are you supposed to sweep a woman away and carry her off if you're a grown child? How are you supposed to light that flame, that flint, that spark in her chest if you're an adolescent child? You can't. And this is important, that this part is important. Ladies, don't mistake a redemption arc for love. That's to say, through your life, people are going to approach you and they're going to have stories to tell. And some of those stories are going to involve tragedy. And when you hear those stories, you might hear them coming from somebody who is somewhere on the line of a redemption arc, maybe near the end, and they just happen to meet you. Maybe they're almost good, almost redeemed in this story. Maybe things happen to them that they had no control over. And those stories are going to make you feel. And you might confuse that for an actual connection. And that happens so often. It's like, it's so rare to feel, genuinely in a deep way. And there is something about tragedy and redemption that you may also have within you. It's so universal that when you hear it, it almost feels like it binds you to that person in pain. And that can be completely mistaken for a connection or chemistry or love. And that is going to end up disappointing you probably more than most things. That is probably one of the number one things, one of the top things that is going to take you down a road that you probably don't want to go. And the thing is too, this can happen and genuine love at the same time, at the same place. Like that is completely possible. But actual love is rare. And you're probably going to be approached by a lot of people with a lot of stories. And more than anything, it's those stories that will make you feel close to them. And just be careful with that one, because you're going to end up feeling attached before you know it to somebody who you shouldn't be attached to, not in that way. And you're going to end up giving up parts of yourself that in the end you're going to wish you had kept. And if I had a daughter, that's the advice I would give her, in part. I would say, don't mistake a redemption arc for love, because they are two completely different things. Completely different. And actually, people who want to get close to you know that. People who are skilled at getting close to you know that. Because there's something about that, like I said, that's so universal that will just pull, it will make you feel in your chest physically. And, it will just completely bypass your thinking, and love is more of a complete picture that consists of multiple small moments that persuade you that that's actually what's going on, until the point where you can say to the person, I love you. And maybe the very last moment is this small thing, but it's on the back of a robust line of things. Even when this person is saying things that aren't meant to make you feel anything, they're just talking, but the words that they're saying just so happen to correspond with your experience and everything you know about life in such a way that you can't get enough of it. And you think to yourself, oh, you actually think to yourself, I love this person. And it's sort of that accidental, unintentional thing that actually makes love happen, when you're just kind of, like they say, being yourself, and you're not really trying to do anything, and you just enjoy each other to such a degree that just your personalities going back and forth makes you fall for each other more and more. And really, there is no limit to how far that can go. Just exposure is enough. Talking is enough. Seeing each other is enough. And it grows whether you want it to or not. And yeah, that's just how it goes. And relationships like that don't come around often. And when they do, they may come in ways that you don't expect. And in this era of so much exposure to each other, it takes a different level of bond to really make you both singular for each other. And it's like I said in the past, like who else do you want to marry? Who else do you want to make people with? Outside of this one person who literally doesn't have enough time in this life to love you. So they're going to love you as much as they can while they can. And ideally continue to find you. And that sort of dramatic Shakespearean love actually exists. It does. And in that, men and women want the same thing. Everybody wants that. And it's just, you have to be careful. Even the lower parts of yourself, who you give that to. And at the same time, it's like you can't be too, guarded. And honestly, it's like, what else are we doing here? It's like you can be extremely modern and classic at the same time. Those two things, if done properly, don't have to conflict. I mean, as long as you care, you can do just about anything. And when you have the backing of somebody like that, Ladies, like if you have a dude in your life who backs you like that, I mean, you're completely unstoppable. You cannot be stopped, because that sort of bond is a real constant. Like, no matter what happens, you have the backing of somebody who is, in his own right, pretty unstoppable. And when you have two brains with the same interests bound like that, working on problem after problem at the same time with the same aim, you're completely unstoppable. Because you complement each other so well as men and women. You fill out all the gaps, all those little unseeable areas that you maybe can't quite interpret the way that it should be interpreted, will be seen by your literal other half. And that's how we talk about it in those terms. We say, my other half, soulmate. We have these words that are the right words, but they're not idealized words, even though they can sound that way. And even what I'm saying now can sound idealized. People can hear this and be like, I don't believe in that. But it doesn't matter if you believe in it. It's the case. And some people kind of resent that that's the case, to be honest. They kind of resent the fact that a human being can depend on another human being so much, because of what that implies. But it's not about power. That's not how it's viewed within the lens of that sort of bond. And yeah, from the female point of view and from the male point of view, we both want the same thing.